Hello, my name is Chava Alexander, and today I would like to talk to you about my thesis proposal, which is Le Village Boheme, Legend of the Village. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. When I went into the field of usability, I started doing usability research, and the first person that I studied usability with was Aaron Marcus. I was very interested in the research aspect of it, but after working in the research aspect, I realized what I really wanted to do was design. That's when I decided to go to the Academy of Art University. So I'd like to show you a little bit about my portfolio. I have several pieces here, including what would be considered print, flash, web, and Maya. So I'd like to show you just a little brief one of each one. Paula Schur is a designer, and for this project we had to pick something that was, design a piece that was going to resemble what she would have designed, or whoever we had chosen. So this is my piece on Paula Schur. Now I'd like to show you a flash piece. This is entitled How to Break a Coconut. And what it shows are the different steps in order to how to break a coconut all the way to eating it. It's an interactive, flash-based. I do both animation for this as well as the ability to have user design and user input in it. For example, you can move things around. This is a motion graphics piece that I did, which is called Visual Bliss. The reason why I'm showing you this piece is I want to include motion graphics into my thesis. I've also done Maya, which I thought would be interesting to work with in terms of developing out my thesis. And user validation of cultural dimensions of a website design. This is the paper that I wrote that I was talking about doing research, and I wrote this for Visa International's website. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because I feel that my thesis has a lot to do with cross-cultural design. So, what is my thesis? What is Le Village Boheme, Legend of the Village? Le Village Boheme, Legend of the Village is an interactive project that takes the Greenwich Village and places it in the 1960s. What happened in Greenwich Village from the Beat Generation to the 1970s, the hippie countercultural movement. This includes people such as Allen Ginsberg, Bob Dylan, Barbra Streisand. What was going on? What were the effects? How did Greenwich Village in the 1960s affect the rest of the world? What was going on in the beat movement, the hippie countercultural movement? My focus is to take a map, a legend, quick links, the ability for users to tell their own story, and a timeline. Put it together and tell people what the importance are. What the importance is of the gay rights movement, women's liberation, the anti-war movement, why these are important, who the writers were, what the events were that occurred. So, build it, they will come. Who will come? Well, really anybody. For example, when I first started doing my research on this, I went into the Stonewall Inn. For those of you who don't know what the Stonewall Inn is, the Stonewall riots marked one of the beginning events that started the gay rights liberation. It was riots where the gays were standing up for themselves against the police brutality. And when I walked into the Stonewall Inn, I started talking to someone about what my intentions were. And he was like, you can really make this so personal to people that, are not only interested in the history or the writers or the poets or the artists, but also for the gays to understand that are 20 years old, that are walking down the street, for example, in the Castro and feel that they have freedom and liberty. That in the 1960s, you were beaten up by the police if you were gay. The women's rights, women's liberation movement as well. 1970 marks the end of Angela Davis's, or the time that Angela Davis got arrested for her women's rights movement. And these are the people that I want to attract to the site. I want to work not only with people that are interested in the history, that are interested in the writers, but also people that are interested in how Greenwich Village really shaped what was going on. How am I going to do this? And what's going to be displayed? Well, the information architecture includes the timeline, a legend, walking tours, and different events, places, and people. It's a large amount of information that's going to be relayed. So I need to do this very intelligently. So once someone enters Le Village Boheme, Legend of the Village, they're going to be exposed to a flash motion graphics presentation piece that'll show the beginning of the 1960s to the end of the 1960s. To kind of just, whet their appetite about what is going to be seen. There's a tours link, a map link, timeline, legend, help, as well as about. So once the person enters, they're going to see a map of Greenwich Village, a little introductory. And then if they click around on the map, obviously there's going to be buildings. Also up here, it's going to show you where you are on the map because you're going to be really zoomed in so you see the buildings and things like that. So like I mentioned, the Stonewall Inn. So the user clicks on the Stonewall Inn. Stonewall Inn, you have a little bit of information about it. For example, like I said, the Stonewall riots. There's going to be interviews, external links, as well as my story. If you click on a place that mentions people as well, for example, Bob Dylan, my intention is to pull you in through Bleecker Street, for example. You'll have Bob Dylan, a little bit of history, interviews, music, external links, as well as my story. Now, what is my story? What is that offering to the users? Well, there's two different aspects of my story. First, you can read other stories about the village, and then you can actually write your own, where you put your title, you put your story, you can upload an image, so that it brings the community together. And you can really talk about anything. For example, what I just said right now about the fact that when I went to the Stonewall Inn, I really didn't think about the fact that people would be interested about what's going on now compared to what was going on then. And I would write something like that to let others know, listen, I went to the Stonewall Inn, I realized that police brutality was so strong and it was so dangerous to be a gay back in the 60s, and now it's not, and it would just completely open my eyes. The legend link. This is going to be a story that's going to have hot buttons. So, for example, I started in the 1950s. The Beat Generation was formed by Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg is a hot link, so you can jump ahead and go to Allen Ginsberg. This is the quick links that you can click on different people, different places, and different events to be directed on the map to where it's located. And this is the timeline. So basically from 1961 all the way, or 1960 all the way to 1970 is going to have a story, a visual outline story about what happened when, so that you can look at the events surrounding it and figure out why it happened, when it happened. In the walking tours, you can design your own personal walking tour. And you can select from 3 different kinds: artists and writers, gay rights, music. That's what I've defined so far. But you could also plan your own walking tour. So you can make a personalized walking tour. And you can select what particular people or places or events that you're interested in. And then after you've selected either the walking tour or the personalized walking tour, you're then taken into, so this tour is personalized, and this is the areas that this individual wanted to see, and it's lit up on the map. The technical mood board. There's going to be a lot of video, photographs, interviews. It's going to show the map of the village, the buildings, going to be technically oriented as well as having the timeline. The visual mood board will be very colorful, very fun, very bright, a lot of historical images and pictures. Now going to the timeline, when am I going to get this done? How is it going to be done? I'm going to start with research, design, usability, and then to finalize it. First, finding the user's needs, going down to the site map, the prototyping, debugging, user testing, and then finalizing it. What am I going to use? Well, I want to be able to put this on an iPad. So HTML5, JavaScript, CSS3, PHP, MySQL, Papervision, Sandy, After Effects, Logic Pro, using a camera, Photoshop, Illustrator, as well as my voice. Summer, I'm going to be taking Web Tech 2, as well as developing story. And the fall, I'm going to do the Group Directed Study User Experience, Group Directed Study Scripting, as well as creative writing. Now it's a time for you to ask any questions. Thank you.